Another problem that causes high layer 2 retransmissions is the hidden node problem, and this is quite common in a Wi-Fi network, right? This will increase the L2 retransmit. Now let's see what hidden node is. Okay, so usually when a wireless client has to transmit data on a Wi-Fi medium, right, it will do a CCA at the physical layer, basically trying to understand what is the energy level on that channel, and then if there's no energy, if the channel is clear, it will start to transmit the data. That is called clear channel assessment. Right, this is what the client will do before it has to send traffic. Now it's possible that a client doing CCA may not be able to hear the other clients transmitting data at that time. That's pretty much why there's a possibility that hidden node can happen. So let me give you an example as to why. So when one client is unheard by another client or multiple clients, okay, that's when hidden node problem will happen. The AP is able to hear both the sides, like AP is able to hear the hidden node as well, but the clients are not able to hear that. So let me give you an example with a diagram. This is going to make much more sense to you this way. Now we have an access point here, okay, and let's say this is the coverage or the BSS of the access point, and there is one client here, client number A, and there are two clients here. Okay, now for some odd reason there is an obstruction that is built here. When the design was done, there was no obstruction here, there was no wall here, okay, there was no bookcase here, but during the time and in the last few months, another wall came up or a bookcase came up, and that kind of is put right here in the middle. Now the thing is, when an access point is trying to communicate with the AP and the client, and client trying to communicate with the client and vice versa, these kind of issues become very common in such scenarios. Okay, now what hidden node does is, okay, let's say this particular client is sending traffic to the access point and they are communicating, but client number B was supposed to hear the transmissions happening between AP and the client number A, but since there is an obstruction in between, the client B is not able to hear anything that the client A is doing, and thus will also assume there is no transmission happening, and thus will send traffic to the AP, and here a collision will happen. Okay, I think it's let me erase this. Okay, and thus a collision will happen, and when a collision happens, the AP cannot send an ACK back, and thus the layer 2 retransmits will increase in the network. Right, now the problem of hidden node can be so dire that it can actually make sure that 15 to 20% retransmissions happen in the network, and sometimes even higher, and that's a big cause of concern, because with 15 to 20% or higher retransmits happening, the throughput of the network will really badly get affected. Okay, now I mean, this is something which is more common than we think, and it happens quite often in the network. Right, now what can be done is, let's say there's a bookcase that came up. Another example of a hidden node can be something like this. Let's say an access point is right here. There need not be an obstruction in the middle. Sometimes in a BSS, one client is here and the other client is here at two opposite corners, and when this client is communicating with the access point right here, okay, the transmissions happening may not be able to, the transmissions happening between the first client and the access point, client number A, client number B, and the access point. When client number A is sending traffic, there's a possibility that B may not be able to hear it again, and something similar will happen. The B will transmit, the frames will get corrupted, there will be no ACK sent back, and thus layer 2 retransmissions will rise. That's another way that hidden node problems can actually happen, right, in a network. Now, usually in the offices you've seen, another common examples are, let's say, when you have a voice phone in an office, when you get a call, you usually walk to a quieter place, right? You just take the phone and walk to a quieter place, go probably behind some sort of a desk or some sort of a wall to talk to somebody. That's when a hidden node problem can happen, right? There can be a newly constructed wall, there can be a newly constructed bookcase, or when you have a Wi-Fi laptop in your hand, you can actually again move to a quieter place and probably put that laptop under a metal sheet or something to work, so that there is no disturbance. In that scenario also, the hidden node can happen. So in any scenario where a client's communication or a client's transmission is not heard by other clients, that's when a problem can happen, because other clients will rely on the energy coming from the client number 1 to understand if they have to transmit data on the medium right now or not. If not, then yeah, they'll anyway transmit, and that's when a collision will actually happen, right? Now, one way to figure it out is to basically do a protocol analyzer, take a protocol analyzer, and what will happen is, if there are L2 retries from a single MAC address, sourced from a single MAC address, okay, use a protocol analyzer and take the packet captures in the area. And if you see from one MAC address there are too many retries, then that's an indication for you that yes, there is a possible hidden node problem happening in the network, right? Now that is number one. Now what you can do is, which I will also discuss later in the chapter, that there is a possibility that you can actually sorry about that. What we can do is, now either use CTS and RTS in the network, or I should say RTS and CTS. Let me tell you what that does. Even though this is explained quite in detail in the other course, I'll just spend a minute on that. RTS, CTS, we can use this. Okay, now what it does is, there is an access point right here, and this is, as I explained earlier, this is the BSS, and there is a wall that is created on the network here, which is kind of preventing client number A to be heard by client number B and C. Okay, A, B and C. Okay, this is the access point. Now in RTS CTS, the client number A will first send a request to send to an access point saying, okay, I want to send some traffic. Now this RTS is expected that B and C will not be able to hear it because there's a hidden node problem happening. They will not be able to hear it, of course, right? So the AP will send a clear to send to an access to the client saying, okay, you can now send traffic. Now this CTS is sent by the access point before client A can transmit data. Now this CTS will definitely be heard by B and C, because B and C are not in a corner, or they are absolutely near the AP. So B and C will be able to hear the CTS which is sent for client number A, and they will know that yes, somebody wants to transmit data on the network, so we need to keep quiet. This will make sure there are no more collisions, right? Okay, now that's one way by which we can actually make sure the hidden node problem is taken care of, right? Make sense? Okay, so what other thing we can do is, in a way, we can also increase the power level of the clients to an extent, so that, I'm not saying increase the power too much, but we can increase the power level of the clients to an extent so that when you increase the power level, the range of the clients also increase. Increase the transmit power of the client. So usually most clients have fixed transmission power output, right? Now what we can do is, we can adjust the power level of an access point, of the client, so that once the power goes up, the range of the client increases, and hopefully the other client should be able to hear this particular client that is in the hidden node scenario. That also is useful in making sure that hidden node problems are controlled and not happening in the network. Other thing is, of course, remove the obstacle if you can. Okay, remove the obstacle if you can. That's the easy way out. If is, that's something which we can do. Or move the device, move the hidden node. If you are behind a wall, working from behind a wall, probably might want to come and sit with everybody and work. That's gonna remove the hidden node problem at all anyway. Or there's another way we can fix this, is add an access point in that area, right? So if you add an access point, that's the best fix. That's basically, a hidden node problem will anyway go away. If you have an access point, that will be on a different channel, and then yes, the hidden node problem will anyway go away. So there are 3, 4, 5 ways by which we can fix this problem, and this problem is more common than we all think, and I've seen this problem happening in many networks. Whereas once the network was deployed a few years back, things were fine, things were not a problem, there was no issue going on, because everybody used to sit near the access point. As and when they got more employees, as and when the some years passed, they kind of built another room there. They kind of had another wall built there. Somebody moved into a corner to work. Somebody, obviously they left their own seat and they started working from an APR where there's no noise, and that's sometimes also cause a hidden node problem. So yeah, that's why hidden nodes are something to really look at. And with all these issues going on, the L2 transmissions can go all the way up to 20%. That is very bad for the network, right? That is something, that's why this has to be controlled when this happens, because otherwise the throughput of the network will drastically go down, right? So yeah, thank you guys. I think in the next video we'll talk about something else, and see you in the next video then. Thank you.